This is the Cal One-on-One podcast on Cape Atlantic Live. Here's your host, Nick Kosko.
What's going on, everybody? It's Nick Kosko here with the Cal One-on-One podcast on Cape Atlantic Live. With me today is Mainland Boys head coach Dan Williams, fresh off a South Jersey Group 3 title over rival Ocean City in an instant classic over the weekend. Coach, first of all, congratulations on the sectional title. And again, thanks for joining the program for your second go around here on the podcast. But a couple more games to play. We'll see for your Mainland Mustangs. But again, thanks for coming on. And looking at this game again, I would say this is, I think, an instant classic. I can't sum it up any other way, but an instant classic and just an absolute roller coaster affair inside your home gym. Just take me through the emotions from the weekend coming into today, now prepping for the state semifinals.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, Nick. I really appreciate it. Appreciate all the coverage all year. You guys do a great job. And it was certainly emotional, no doubt about it. It always is between us and Ocean City. The basketball teams in general, we've known Coach Bruno. In fact, he was a coach at Jordan Road and Summers Point prior to being Ocean City's coach. So he coached John Evans, who's on our staff, and coached against myself when I was at Bellhaven and Linwood. And so that goes back a long, long time. And the communities are invested. And, when you are going to add into the stakes that it's for a South Jersey championship, I don't know how it could get more emotional. And maybe with the one exception that it turned into 3 overtimes. Right? We were saying, John Evans and I on the bench, we actually – someone asked, have you ever been a part of something like that? And I said, actually, when we were juniors, we played against Ocean City in a quadruple overtime game. I believe that was JB's first year coaching Ocean City, possibly his second. So I know what it's like to be on that end of it. And I can tell you for sure, it was a lot more draining as a coach than it was as a player. Because all you're doing as a coach is thinking, worrying, trying to think a step ahead, beating yourself up a little bit about the thing you just missed a minute ago. As a player, you're just going. You're going. And, of course, you have 16, 17-year-old legs to keep you a little fresher. But, it was quite an event.
I can only imagine. You mentioned the fact that it was more exhausting as a coach. I can't believe it almost wasn't exhausting for your players, but it's probably a testament to how you and Coach Bruno coach what seems like short benches. I believe both teams only used 6 and maybe 7 players coming off for both on both ends, and you're playing what was that you're almost playing 2 full games. And what was that like? And what does that say about your team, knowing that you basically just played 6 guys the entire game and nobody really got tired considering the circumstances?
Yeah, it is a testament to the type of athletes that these kids on both sides, both teams are. And I look back and try and reflect on my coaching. The bench has shrunk a bit in the playoffs. And I think that's much more a reflection of me getting a little bit tight than it is the guys that used to get in pretty regularly, that maybe their minutes have shrunk or even gone away altogether a little bit. We were fortunate because we really have 6 starters in Keaton Lowenstern. He started, several games this year. When we were trying to figure out what the lineup would look like exactly, and gone through some sickness with Steven and then visiting Princeton and things that had him out of the lineup. And so we feel like 6 starters. So Keaton played a fair amount in that game, but I believe that Ocean City's first sub was maybe into the second or third overtime. So we felt like, by the third overtime, we have to have some little advantage there, just conditioning wise. Although when you're 17 and something is like that intense and that emotional, you don't feel it till later that night or the next day. Anyway, those guys have, they push through and they always surprise us with what they're capable of doing.
Let's go back a little bit further. You guys beat Morristown in the sectional semifinals earlier last week. Now, that was a huge game last year. I know that they beat you on a buzzer beater in Linwood, and they went on to win the sectional title. That game had to be emotional for your guys as well. And then, of course, you get the rival in Ocean City. I can only imagine what the message was from you to your guys in that locker room from Thursday to Saturday, playing 2 games like that. I mean, what was that like, knowing that you had Morristown first, and the rowdiness that their fans brought into the gym as well, and then you see Ocean City's emotional comeback in the sectional semis over Camden Eastside. I mean, what was the whole atmosphere like for you guys going from, all right, we have Morristown, it's payback almost, if you want to frame it that way, and then, oh yeah, we're gonna have Ocean City for the 3rd time this year.
Right. So starting with Morristown, we that was sort of what the theme we went with, that, we have a shot at redemption here. At least that's what we're telling them. I'm thinking to myself, I'm 0-4, I believe, prior to that against Morristown, and never really, obviously, 0-4, you're not successful, but I think, only got above 30 points in one of those games. So they seem to have our number. They were our kryptonite a little bit. We had to come up with some way for us to sell it to them. And that was the thing. Like, hey, last year we just about had them. They lost a few pieces. We lost Mawali, but we thought like we had some real strong pieces back. And it's at our place. So there was a lot of emotion in that game, even though there's not a natural rivalry between us. And obviously they're fans. They're unbelievable at home, and they travel really well. So they were in our gym from the second we got on the floor to shoot, before guys had even put on their uniforms and everything else. And then to find out that it was, Ocean City had beat Eastside, and it would be, everybody knew from the start what that all entails. And you're playing a team for the 3rd time. The second game, that was really a high stakes game, because we played them in the semifinals of the Cal, which adds to it. And now obviously the finals of this, and they know every play. Their assistants are calling out all our plays as soon as we call them out, as we sort of do with them to some degree. And and just the atmosphere that was in the gym, both fans on both sides were great. They're a rowdy bunch, even though it's a small gym. Sometimes that makes it even louder and harder to communicate. So we talked about a key after the Morristown win was to not allow the emotions to take any focus away from anything that we were doing, or lose any focus in the midst of the game itself. Because it's easy to do, especially when you're a teenager, is to get wrapped up in all your fans are in the stands, kids that you're probably friendly with, but for that day aren't really your friends on the other side of the stands, and they're getting on each other. And, you want to impress your guys, you want to show up their guys. And it's hard to remember, hey, this is what we're trying to do here. This is the set. This is the defensive scheme we're in. And trying to get the kids to buy into just how critical that is not an easy thing. And then, of course, to go through the gamut of emotions. You're up 8 points with 1:50 left. Now you're in overtime. It would have been easy to be deflated and defeated right then and there. And again, I'm sure I was a little more deflated than the kids were, but you can't allow that to come through in any way, shape, or form. You got to sell them on the idea. All right, this is great. We got 4 minutes, win the tip, go score, and then lock this thing down. Hopefully they buy into what you're saying. It's hard for us to remember as adults how resilient they are sometimes, when we're the ones feeling a little deflated and down.
I wanted to talk about Timmy Traveline. He made some massive shots in that game. I believe it was closer towards the end of regulation. He hit a big 3 straight on towards the bucket. It goes down. The gym erupts. Obviously, you guys end up forcing, it does end up going to overtime. And as you just alluded to, you're in the second overtime. You're like, all right, we can finally close it out here. And then it's like, oh my God, the score's still time. We have to play another 4 minutes. He made clutch shots all over the place. And of course, you guys did escape in the end. Ocean City did have a final shot, final look there. And then, Cohen Cook gets the rebound, tosses it to the side, and you guys end up winning. But Traveling in particular, considering the clutch shots he made against Ocean City, he made some big ones against Morristown as well. What can you say about him and his resolve in those big moments?
Well, so even before Ocean City, I would say the entire playoff run, he's been the most critical piece. Like his Cohen's numbers are basically what his numbers are and have been throughout the playoffs, which are phenomenal in and of themselves. But Timmy has stepped up in every category, right? Not only were those threes super critical, we needed every last point. Obviously, when you go to 3 overtimes, you need everything you get. But people probably missed the second piece to his scoring. He had 25 points, but he also had 13 rebounds in the game. For a 5'11" guard, that's unheard of. That's the kind of double-double that, kids dream about having, and to have that in the championship game, we're so proud of him because he's got that. He's got that type of game. He's an explosive, athletic kid. He hasn't had that opportunity like a Steele out in the front court to go and show that he can get up and dunk. But if in layups and all that layup lines, he can get up there and dunk. He's a tough, athletic kid that, we've been kind of waiting for these numbers we've seen them here and there, but to consistently now through a playoff run be putting them up has really given us that edge that we needed. And I don't even think we'd have been in the game against Ocean City. I think it would have been in Moorestown or somebody else had he not stepped up this entire playoff run. So it couldn't have come at a better time. I'm excited because of that, and I'm really, really proud of him. But yeah, some of those threes were so clutch that he had a couple takes to the basket that were really important too. He was absolutely critical. Like, because teams know their game plan is, all right, Cook, we're going to try and blanket him and, make his catches minimal. And then when he does catch, he likes to get to the basket. We're going to have him see 2 or 3 bodies. And to do that, we got to take guys off of others. So we need everybody to be a factor. But when Traveline stretches out a defense like that, it really makes it hard to do, to guard both of those guys at the same time.
You guys will take on the Freehold Borough in the Group 3 state semifinals on Wednesday, so that's rapidly approaching. You talk about this championship mentality for this school, for you guys at Mainland, and again, 4 of your 5 starters were on that state championship football team. Cohen Cook, Rocco DiBiaso, Stephen Ordilli, and obviously Jamie Tyson. They were a part of history on the gridiron. Do you think that carried over? I know we talked about this previously during the preseason and how maybe that does carry over because they have that mentality, but of course they had to get their basketball legs underneath them, of course, for a new season. Do you think that's now coming on display right here where, hey, this team went undefeated in football and now they're saying, well, we can do this on the hardwood as well?
100%. And we bring that up all the time. In fact, the last time it came up pregame was before Moorestown. We said, hey, look, last year in football, you guys were in a semifinal game. You had a lead in the fourth quarter. You're up 14-12, I believe it was. And just a few things don't go your way and do go Millville's way, and you don't get that semifinal win. And you have a crack at them next year, and you come out and you win in impressive fashion, right? And here we are, Moorestown. We played them in a semifinal last year. We had a lead in the fourth quarter, and, something doesn't go our way and it goes in their favor. They hit that shot, and we had fortunately, that crack at them again this year and took advantage of it. And I really do think this year, they were winners and winning often last year, but they really learned how to win in that football season and how to put teams away. And, they've done that, 26 times now this year. And I think that what they did and what they learned during that football run has tremendously helped us this winter.
A couple more for you, Coach Dan Williams, with me here on Cal 101, presented by Omer's Appliance Service. I'd be remiss, Coach, if I didn't congratulate you on your 200 wins. I know you've been here for quite a bit here at Mainland Regional. You were honored the other night after getting that 200th win. What does that mean to you in this program? I can only imagine. We could be on here for 2 hours if we talked about all the stories that you've had as a coach. Going from win number 1 to win number 200 just last week.
it's certainly a cool thing. I think it's something that, in a few years from now, I'll look back on, or 10 years from now, 15, whatever it is. And I'll enjoy it even more. Right now, it's the thing that's meant the most. It's not even like winning the sectional final. It's just the relationships that have been built up. We've been really fortunate, our whole staff, to have worked with some of the guys we've worked with. And the staff itself, these are like John Evans and I are lifelong friends, but these other guys I now consider sort of into my inner circle of really good friends, not just some coaches that I work with during the winter or the winter and the summertime. And, keeping track of, it's always nice when we've got alumni now that have hired other kids, right out of college that are working for them. So that's the really cool part of it. And the numbers are cool and all that other stuff, but there's always somebody that's got more numbers, better numbers than what you have. So it's more I've always felt it was more about the relationship piece of it. But maybe in 10 years after, whenever the time comes when I'm not coaching anymore, I'll look back and I'll be impressed with it or something like that. But right now it's kind of like, it was neat. We got some more stuff to do, and let's get these kids in positions that they deserve to be in because of the types of kids they are and how hard they've worked.
Could very well have upwards of 2 more games on this historic season here for Mainland. Last one for you, Coach. Just the basic takeaways, the game plan. How do you plan to attack Freehold Borough on Wednesday for the state semifinal game and clinch a spot in the state championship?
Yeah, they're really tough. We've now seen a few games on film. So their front line goes 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", and all three of those guys very athletic, long. They get to the basket and they can protect the rim as well. I think that instead of overthinking it and saying, all right, we've got to put in a whole bunch of new stuff, the thing that's gotten us here has been our defense. For us, it all starts with defense. Pressure in the half court, identifying, maybe a couple wrinkles here or there with certain guys that we want to do. And then offensively making the other team work. That's been what's worked for us. Whether it's been games we've been fortunate enough to be in the 50s or 60s, or even if it's, low 40s, as long as we're taking really good shots every time and willing to defend and staying connected and communicating, we've been in every game that's been the case. The few games that we really last 2 minutes of the game haven't been in, one or both of those sides of the ball, that hasn't been the case. We've forced some shots thinking we're down and not, after 5-6 seconds or 1 or 2 touches, and not made the other team work. Or we haven't had 5 guys willing to put it all out there on the defensive side until the play's finished every single time. If we can do those things, then, I'd like to think that we'd have a chance when it's down, down to the wire there. And if we don't do certainly both, we won't have a chance. If we don't do one of those things, it's probably likely we don't have a chance. So, but if we do, I think it's anybody's ball game. But the single biggest thing, we got to keep their front line off the backboard. Getting out rebounded in a few games this year by a lot has happened to us, and we've lost those couple of games. We've lost more than a couple, but we've lost those couple of games that we identified that we got crushed on the boards, by a lot. So
Freehold Borough and Mainland going to take on each other in the Group 3 state semifinals Wednesday at 5 o'clock for that tip-off at Monroe Township High School. Coach, good luck in that game. Appreciate your time. Hopefully we're talking to you again after a couple more victories here. Obviously, you look at Mainland here, maybe a football state championship and possibly a basketball state championship when it's all said and done this week.
Nick, thank you so much. Yeah, it'd be awesome to think that we could have that conversation. Let's see, one game at a time. We'll see.
Wednesday at 5 o'clock, Mainland and Freehold Borough in the Group 3 state semifinals. I'm Nick Kosko signing off here for the Cal 101 podcast presented by Omer's Appliance Service right here on Cape Atlantic Live.